Hello and welcome to episode 123 of the Wisdom from the Akasha podcast. My name is Suzie, I'm your host, and I'm an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner. Before I get into today's topic, just a quick reminder for those of you who haven't yet started your Akashic Records journey. You maybe are curious about the Akashic Records, that's why you're listening to this podcast. Just a reminder that I'm going to be hosting my next free Akashic Records workshop. It's online on Zoom. You can register over on my website. I'll pop a link into the show notes. These workshops are very much geared to be a Q&A session, so I give you a little bit of an introduction about the Akashic Records, working with the Akashic Records, how they can help you, and then I open up for Q&A. If you would like to come along to that, I would love to see you there. If you can't attend live, don't worry. If you're registered for that, you will receive access to the recording, and of course, if you have questions that you want me to answer in that live call, then just drop me an email or submit it on the podcast page over on my website. So today's episode is the 5 benefits of Akashic Bathing. And it doesn't mean opening up your Akashic Records while you're in the bath, which is a completely fine practice if that is something that you want to do. I know lots of you actually do work really well when you're in the medium of water, but that isn't what this episode is about. What this episode is about, what I used to call resting in the records, until one of my current students gave it this beautiful name, Akashic Bathing. So I didn't come up with this name. Definitely all credit to one of my students who did. And this is the idea of, or the practice of, just opening up your Akashic Records to just be in the records. Think of this as a more direct path practice. The Akashic Records can be used for both indirect and direct path practices. So the indirect path practices would be the traditional going in, opening up your Akashic Records, asking questions and getting some information, receiving some guidance. Other things that you can do that would be the indirect practices would be the clearing work that you hear me talk about as well. So going in and actively working upon the light grid. So actively working upon moving that energetic stagnation through, whether that's from current lifetime, past lifetime, ancestral issues, really actively working on the chakra system, working with those 7 energy bodies that we call the light grid. So because there's an active element to this process and it's moving energetic stagnation through, or it's receiving guidance so you can understand yourself better, we would classify these as the indirect practices. Now, if you're unsure as to what I mean when I'm talking about direct and indirect paths and practices, I'll pop a link into the show notes to an episode I did quite some time ago on those, so you can understand, okay, what's going to be most appropriate for me right now. Akashic Bathing is this more direct path practice, and what that means is that rather than setting an intention to go in and receive some information, or setting an intention to go in and move some energetic stagnation through, going in with that very specific purpose, what you're going to do is you're going to set the intention just to go in the Akashic Records and just be. As I said, this is what I used to call resting in the records, but I do really love the name Akashic Bathing, because what you have to remember is the Akashic Field, the Akasha, it's this field of light, it's this field of information, and it's a very high vibrational field, and it's a multidimensional field. So by Akashic Bathing, what you're doing is you're opening yourself up and putting yourself into this extremely high vibrational field, which is complete unconditional love and more. So it's a beautiful practice. It's one of my favorite things to do in the Akashic Records, and I know lots of my current students and former students love to do this as well. What I want to talk to you today is about, why would you even do this? You can maybe understand, okay, I understand why I'd go in and ask questions to receive some guidance and information. I can understand why I'd go in and do some energy clearing work. I want to get rid of that energetic stagnation. I want to live in more soul alignment. But why on earth would you want to do this, where you're just going to go in and open your Akashic Records and just bathe in the light, bathe in the field? So that's what I'm going to get into today. I'm going to give you 5 benefits of doing this. Benefit number 1 is this practice is really going to strengthen your internal technology. So when you are going into this multidimensional higher frequency field that the Akashic Records are, your internal technology, so things like your clair sensors, are going to naturally receive this energetic attunement to becoming clearer, to becoming more coherent. What's going to happen is the more time you spend just being in the energy of the Akashic Records, you're going to get better access to these clair senses and the other aspects of your internal technology. What's going to happen is there's going to be energetic stagnation that you have, maybe that you've just picked up throughout the day. You maybe haven't even thought about it. And by going in and doing some Akashic bathing, it's just going to give you a very gentle kind of attunement, and it's going to attune these clair senses, this internal technology. And of course, the internal technology is really important, especially for navigating through the times that we are currently living in. So benefit number 2 follows on from that, which is the more often that you do this practice, the just being in the records, the more able you're going to be to receive. So that's receiving better guidance, receiving better intuitive hits. It's this strengthening this receptivity. Now, a lot of us are very focused on the energies of action, of doing, of pulling things apart, of building things, really this very active process. And a lot of us struggle with being in the energy of receptivity, or that neutral energy that I talk about a lot. So the more that you do this Akashic bathing practice, the stronger your receptivity muscle or your receptivity organ is going to be, to allow it so that in your day-to-day life, when you're not in the Akashic records, you're just going about your everyday life, you're going to be able to receive guidance much clearer. Benefit number 3 is it's also going to help you strengthen that organ of discernment. So that organ that we have of resonance and being able to discern, is this for me? Is this evolutionary? Is this going to help my expansion? Is this empowering? Is this aligned to my sovereignty and making me more and more sovereign? Or is it not? Is it not aligned to my evolution? Is it aligned to the devolution? It's going to help you become more spiritually sovereign by really charging up and strengthening and attuning that organ of discernment. So when you come across new teachings, new teachers, new information, new practices to try, you're going to have this very visceral yes or no as to whether or not this is right for you and in alignment with your soul, because you are unique and you're this beautifully unique creation. So what's right for somebody else might not be right for you, and you want your discernment organ to really be working to be able to tell you that. Benefit number 4 is it's going to help you get used to being in those higher frequencies, and it's going to bring more coherence to that grid so that you're able to hold and connect to those frequencies for longer. So this is important, of course, for Akashic Records practitioners to be able to hold the frequency and also to be able to go deeper in your own Akashic Records practice and go deeper for your clients. So what happens, the kind of more time you're spending in these higher frequencies and the more you're attuning to these higher dimensions and the different aspects of this beautiful multidimensional field, the deeper you're going to be able to go in your Akashic Records practice. So the Akashic Records are relational, and what that means is that you're developing a relationship with your Akashic Records. So it's something that's going to grow and evolve over time. When you first get started, it's important, first of all, to learn to be able to hold and stay in that frequency. And then once you've got that mastered, then it's about going, okay, how can I take this practice even deeper? And by Akashic bathing, you're going to be able to do that. Now, caveat here, and my students know exactly what's coming now, is it's important to balance that spending time in higher frequencies with your actual real life and being embodied and being grounded. So what you have to be mindful of yourself and to be conscious of yourself is, am I starting to use this Akashic bathing practice as a form of spiritual bypassing? Am I using it to avoid real life? Am I using it because I just want to hang out in these higher dimensions and these beautiful energies? And they are beautiful and it's a beautiful place to be. But am I doing that at the expense of taking care of my real life, my day-to-day life? So that's something that you have to be very conscious of, because on the flip side, spending too much time in these higher dimensions can lead to bypassing and can ultimately lead to spiritual psychosis in some individuals. So it is something that you have to be very mindful of, and making sure that you're keeping a track on yourself, or you're working with somebody who can keep you grounded, keep you embodied. So making sure that, yes, you're spending time in these beautiful energies, but you're also grounding when you come back into physical everyday reality. you're getting back into your body and you're not neglecting that aspect of your practice as well. So that's very important to remember as well. Number 5 is that your Akashic Bathing practice is going to help you integrate any activations that you've received, especially from light codes, higher aspects of yourself, higher beings, any of your guides, any activations that you receive in, it's going to help you integrate those. Now, these codes are received in by your light grid, and then there's a process that takes place where the codes become active, and they can become active for a whole set of different reasons. Again, I've done another episode on light codes and solar flares, and please feel free to go and listen to that one if you haven't already. But the Akashic Bathing practice is going to help you integrate those and bring forward the information that those activations contained. And I know I said that this was 5 benefits, but I'm going to give you a little bonus benefit here. And this again is for energy practitioners, whether it's Akashic Records practitioners or any other beautiful energy healing modality is out there. Another amazing thing that you can do with Akashic Bathing is it can really help you to recalibrate after a day of client work. So lots of you who are energy healers, light workers, you're also going to identify with being an empath or being a highly sensitive person. And what can happen a lot of the time is that when you're doing client work, there can be this blurring of energetic boundaries. And this is something that all energy practitioners have to work on. So I'm not specifically calling anybody out here. I'm just saying this is something we have to be mindful of. And lots of difficult stuff can come up. I certainly know in Akashic Records clearing, when we're looking at that energetic stagnation from past lives or ancestral issues, they're hard topics. They're difficult things that souls have been through. So it's very important as a practitioner that you're looking after your own energy. So whilst you're working on establishing those good energetic boundaries, it can be really helpful to have a practice like Akashic Bathing, where at the end of the day, you can just go in and recalibrate to your own energy, your own grid. And that's letting go of your client's energy that maybe you've intermingled with. It's letting go of what you've picked up in those sessions and just bringing yourself back to point zero, because you don't want to be taking that energy that isn't yours to process, that isn't yours to transmute into your sleep and then into the next day and into the week. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get very energetically overwhelmed and you're going to start burning yourself out. And your service is not going to feel fun anymore. You're going to feel like you've got this huge weight and this huge energetic burden that you're carrying. So just wanted to give you that little bonus benefit. I hope I've convinced you all that Akashic Bathing is a wonderful thing to do. The Akashic Records are a very versatile modality that you can do many things with, and hopefully you know that from listening to my podcast. If you're new here and you're just starting your Akashic Records journey, come along to the next free workshop. Maybe take a look at my next level 1 training, which starts in September 2026. And that's where you're going to learn how to do those indirect practices that we talked about. So how to go into the records, how to receive information and guidance, how to do that energetic clearing. That's the class that you want to get started. And of course, once you know how to go into your own Akashic Records and work in your own Akashic Records, you're going to be able to do this beautiful Akashic Bathing practice. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments on the podcast. If you haven't maybe tried this practice, give it a try. Let me know how you find it. For those of you who do this regularly, and I know lots of you do, I'd love to hear any of the benefits that you found in your life and share them in the comments so that when people come across this episode, they can also understand different people's perspectives. But I hope you found this episode helpful. I hope it's given you some food for thought about where you maybe want to take your Akashic Records practice. And of course, I will see you next week for the next episode.